Chicken McGrill. I don't even know what that runny liquid goo is right there.
The function of food has definitely evolved through time. Besides being a source of nutrition, we have also found quite a lot of enjoyment in it. The way that we were brought up, our culture, and even our geographical location are all determinants of what we prefer to eat. On the other hand, not many of us are aware of how certain foods are made. While some foods are easy to recognize for what they are, others that are quite commonly eaten dishes aren't as much. Today, we bring you a list of foods that you will never eat again after you realize they are made. Number 1. Gummy bears. From the introduction, you may already realize that whatever food you find on this list could be the next menu item that you decide to skip, and even this first one is quite a heavy hitter. Who doesn't enjoy gummy bears? Many of us enjoy this sweet and chewy treat in all forms, shapes, and sizes. However, when you find out where this chewiness comes from, you may change your mind about it. Many companies that produce gummy bears rely heavily on gelatin to attain this familiar sense for us. Essentially, what's left of various types of animals is used to produce such an effect. These remains are first processed and rendered into a powder, which is mixed with various types of liquids to enhance the taste. Finally, color is added, the color that many of us must love and may even have a favorite one. Number 2. Hot dogs. After the previous example, you may have exclaimed something like, "Well, hot dog, I can't believe there are animal parts in gummy bears." The next menu item we will tell you about is more easily recognized as meat. Let's dig somewhat deeper and see how sausages are made. While many won't be surprised that it isn't truly premium meat that goes into sausages, they would still be quite disturbed to know that it isn't even chunks of meat. Instead, animal remains are used. These include any form of leftover meat which is trimmed down, and a lot of additives go into the mixture to create something that resembles a paste. As if that wasn't enough, all of this is nicely blended for our enjoyment and then packed in casings that could be either from animal intestines or artificial materials. Number 3. Blue cheese. The previous example may have ruined sports events for many fans. If it's any consolation, the next item on this list is often considered rather an acquired taste. Even its name clearly points towards a detail that many could be grossed out with. We're talking about blue cheese, and the color in its name comes from the mold that we let grow on this type of food. The mold, which most of the world considers not to be a good sign when found in food, is exactly why we mention this is an acquired taste. Namely, it apparently adds a flavor that some enjoy, and this is done so by poking a lot of holes in what starts out as mold-free cheese. After it is covered in salt, it is wrapped up until it literally grows to be a blue color, which is why this delicacy is known as blue cheese. This process usually takes at least 2 months, and if this hasn't grossed you out enough, there are even rules about the color of the mold that you can find under the wrapping that indicates whether things are going well or not. Number 4. Chicken nuggets. While the previous case was about food that may split the crowd, the following crunchy delight is something that the majority of people not only enjoy, but truly love. Considering how tasty these little bite-sized chunks of chicken are, we can't be surprised that they are likely one of the most favored fast food items. But let's see what's beneath it all. Why don't we start out with a disclaimer that says, if you like eating bones, feel free to skip what we are about to tell you. If you're still around, we can open by saying that while chicken nuggets appear as quite tiny pieces of meat, they actually come from a process that starts by grinding up the entire chicken. Please note that when we say entire chicken, we don't mean just the meat, but bones as well. After everything is blended to perfection, this paste-like mixture is combined with other ingredients, which provide the taste. Unfortunately, besides salt, this also includes many additives that aren't necessarily as healthy as natural meat. We should be familiar with the rest of the process, including breading and frying the tiny shapes. Don't you feel at least a little bit betrayed that bone fragments could be in our chicken nuggets? We certainly do. Number 5. French fries. Similar to the previous type of food that we examined, the next one is also typically considered a widely preferred meal, or better put, an addition to a meal. We're talking about fries, and as we know, they are commonly seen as an unskippable part of any fast food meal. Now, you may be wondering where the issue could be, considering that it is a potato cut in funny shapes and placed in boiling oil. Well, if this were the case, there wouldn't be much of an issue. But then again, think, when was the last time you made fries yourself? The trickery with the fries begins once you have a need to produce huge amounts of this food and serve it to the public. If this is the case, you may not have as much time to peel each potato by hand and care for it with passion. Instead, what we may discover if we look into the fries we can order at fast food restaurants is a lot of chemicals and animal fat. As you can imagine, this didn't sit well with groups that, either out of their own choice or due to religious reasons, avoid eating any animal products. Number 6. Hamburger meat. Moving down a fast food menu item lane, we come to the next product we examined, and it is a hamburger. True hamburger enjoyers are often able to recognize which place the burger came from just by its looks or even its smell. But after this video, you will know that they may not be able to distinguish a hamburger's age based on its look. There isn't much discovery or surprise regarding how burger patties are made. It is meat that gets shaped, frozen, shipped, and cooked worldwide. What may sound alarming is that a burger from McDonald's was placed in a coat pocket and left for 14 years to observe the change. Whatever your expectations are, if you didn't think that it would look exactly the same, you were wrong. Even though we can't help you solve the mystery of how you make a burger so resistant to the effects of time, it doesn't seem to be a natural thing. Number 7. Ketchup. If you're like some of us, you probably can't have either of the previously examined 2 items without ketchup. This amazing addition goes well with all sorts of food, and it could even be hard to imagine any food place without this topping. To be fair, this may exclude original Italian pizza places, which may take this even as an insult. But this is not why we are here. To put our minds at ease, even though it is on this list, there shouldn't be any side effects to having some ketchup with your food. But we should be aware that among the ingredients that go into the making of ketchup, there's a lot of sugar and fructose syrup. Now, you don't have to know much about these to understand that having a lot of them wouldn't do you any good. So, if you thought that we could have a lot of ketchup since it comes from tomatoes, we have bad news for you. Number 8. Ice cream. When you have seen the title of the next food that we will talk about, you may think to yourself, oh, come on, really, even ice cream? But what can we say besides that there seem to be a lot of commonly eaten types of food that aren't what they appear to be? We know that many love enjoying the various colors and tastes that this chilly desert brings, and these aspects of it aren't what may worry us. While you may get a brain freeze if you don't pace yourself in eating it, what worries us more is that antifreeze is used to create a type of ice cream that will be immediately ready for consumption. Now, as you may know, homemade ice cream usually takes some time before it gets softer and we are able to enjoy it. This isn't the case with store-bought ice cream because it's made using antifreeze. This way, it can stay cold, but it will not freeze so much that you can't eat it. Number 9. Instant noodles. Instant noodles, or as some call it, instant ramen, are often dubbed the most common meal for students. This budget-friendly option doesn't provide us just with a tasty meal, but it does so with little to no time required to prepare it. Considering how convenient this is in today's fast-paced life, we shouldn't be surprised that noodles are eaten quite a lot all around the world. However, the way that these are made can be quite unhealthy for us. The trick lies in the procedure that makes these noodles so easy to prepare. Namely, they are deep-fried before getting shipped to the stores. Besides being a source of color and the conveniently short cooking time, it is also what enriches this meal with a lot of unhealthy fat. On the other hand, if you ever stumbled across a bad brand of instant noodles, you probably could have tasted that something isn't right with the flavor packets that come with this meal. This is due to a lot of sodium and other artificially produced flavors from which it's made. Number 10. Tomato sauce. Previously, we have seen that ketchup, which we could jokingly call the cousin of tomato sauce, isn't as healthy as we may want it to be. We may wonder then why a seemingly more natural variant, tomato sauce, may also be on this list. It is true that using natural ingredients, such as tomatoes, makes this item healthier than others that rely on additives to create an irresistible taste. The issue with tomato sauce doesn't come from the way it's made or even the ingredients it includes. However, you may be getting something a little extra, and considering we're discussing foods you will never eat again, you can probably guess that this is something extra you won't like. Apparently, even the FDA has no issue with bug eggs or maggots in our tomato sauce. If we were to guess what an acceptable amount would be, we are certain that most guesses would say it's under 30 fly eggs per 100 grams of tomato sauce, which is what food control agencies find appropriate. Number 11, canned mushrooms. We have discussed tomato sauce, and once we add the next item from this list, which is canned mushrooms, we are halfway there to make a decent pizza. Well, we hope you don't mind the extra flavor that comes from the issue we just examined, but let's see if there's something even more worrisome in canned mushrooms.
These mushrooms double in size every 24 hours. But how does this complex method unfold in processing and canning such a massive quantity of mushrooms annually? Let's dive into the fascinating world behind the mushrooms that bring flavor to our meals.
There probably isn't much wisdom in saying that whenever you have a chance to choose between something that's fresh and something that's canned, the fresh option is more likely to be healthy. On the other hand, when it's mushrooms that we're talking about, this has more weight to it. Even though we have greatly advanced and made many food-making processes quite automatic and machine-reliant, we still have to pick mushrooms up from the woods and keep them safe before we transfer them to where they get canned. All of these are opportunities for worms and maggots to sneak by and hide within this pizza ingredient. This and the previous example together make us feel that we should closely inspect any pizza we have in the future. Number 12, bacon and processed meats. As soon as they saw the title of the next food that we examined, most meat lovers have probably turned into an angry Ron Swanson. If you don't know who the character is, it's no biggie, since his extreme love for bacon isn't something that's rare enough for us not to recognize it in our surroundings. Bacon is a crispy addition to many meals, and in some places, the unskippable breakfast menu item. It is made from a cut of pork belly, which is salted and kept for a while before it reaches the fullness of flavor.
In making bacon, a curing mixture is prepared by mixing all the important ingredients, including nitrite, in water.
If one doesn't have too much of it and cares about where the meat comes from, it shouldn't be an issue. However, considering how popular this food is, the need for mass production kicks in and ruins this beautiful snack/meal. Bacon and other processed meats have made it onto this list due to the use of salty water injections full of various chemicals in the process of making them. The worst thing is, this isn't even done for the flavor or the quick pace of preparing the meat, but it's done so that the meat would be heavier. Naturally, considering that we pay for the weight of the meat, we're actually being taxed by salty water that can even threaten our health. Number 13, gelatine. When we started this list, we opened it by taking a peek at the process of making gummy bears. We mentioned back then that gelatine was used in its making, and this is in part why gummy bears are on this list. So let's check into the root of the problem. Besides gummy bears, there are countless other desserts that are made using gelatin, and the issue with the substance comes from the ingredients used for its making. Simply put, it's all the cheap stuff that comes off of animals and can't be used in other ways. This includes animal skin, connective tissue, and bones. All of these parts are then boiled down until collagen is extracted from them, and it isn't uncommon that the whole process is supported by using chemicals. It then gets collected, dried, and made into a powder. This is a convenient way for it to get transported and eventually mixed with liquids and colors to create the wonderful jelly and gelatin desserts that we enjoy. Number 14, chicken. We have previously commented on chicken nuggets and even at some point mentioned that chicken meat itself could be a healthier option than some others. But then again, here at number 14, we have chicken. Indeed, it is true that it is a very nutritional meal packed with many useful vitamins. However, this is another food that was ruined for us by the need for mass production.
2 feet are separated from the chickens by this cutting machine, and the remaining whole chicken parts is collected in a certain place. The chicken feet attached to the hook are separated from the body by a flexible band and stored in the box.
Similarly to what we have seen happen to bacon and processed meats, people have at one point decided that it isn't the quality but quantity that makes the earnings higher. This is why, over 50 years ago, plumping started being used. What this means is that chicken meat is injected with salty water to make it heavier. Apparently, even today, some manufacturers haven't stopped doing this, and it's accepted as long as they declare it on the packaging in some way. First bacon, now chicken. To hell with you, salty water. Go back to the ocean and leave our plates. Number 15. Artificial sweeteners. Not many will be surprised to learn that having too much sugar isn't good for you. This is why people have found alternatives such as artificial sweeteners. But considering that this is the next item on our list, you may already suspect that something is wrong with it as well.
As more Americans gain weight and try to lose it, consumption of all artificial sweeteners grows annually.
You don't have to give up your sweet tooth. You can still have as many sweet things as you want, but they will now not give you calories.
These artificial solutions rely on substances such as aspartame and sucralose to create a familiar and cherished sensation. However, they are created using complex chemical processes, such as a combination of acids and other elements, which results in quite a strong product. To give you a picture of how strong we mean, let's mention that some types of these chemicals can be 600 times sweeter than sugar. Naturally, as with any other food that's massively consumed nowadays, much examination was done before it was concluded that these substances are safe for humans. However, later, some studies raised a concern for people's health if they consume artificial sweeteners often enough. Number 16. Farmed shrimp. Seafood is usually considered an important part of a healthy diet. It's often suggested that some form of seafood should be had at least weekly. But let us tell you why farmed shrimp is on this list.
Extensive use of chemicals and untreated wastewater pollute large areas.
A large portion of shrimp eaten worldwide comes from industrial shrimp farms, and many of these aren't held to a high standard. At the very least, hygiene could be quite a troublesome aspect of how farm shrimp is produced. Being raised and processed in an unhygienic environment isn't the only issue. A lot of chemicals and antibiotics are used to prevent the spread of disease among the shrimp. Naturally, whenever antibiotics are used, there is a fright that we may be aiding the development of antibiotic-resistant viruses. Hopefully, we will step up our regulations over time and prevent a true disaster like this could be. Number 17. Honey. It seems that it took humanity quite a while before we realized how important bees are to our entire ecosystem. But have you ever wondered how honey is made and what it is actually made of? The first part is quite commonly known. Bees go from flower to flower, collecting substances that will be made into honey. They then store this in what we call their honey stomach. Once they have collected enough, the creepy part begins. The bees return to the hive and start spitting or vomiting the nectar out for the other bees to take in. In this manner, the nectar is exchanged between multiple bees before it ends up in a honeycomb. To be fair, we should mention that this whole process is natural, but this doesn't make it easier for us to digest the idea that honey may be seen as bee vomit. Number 18. Fake crab meat. The previous example has helped us notice how weird something that we consider quite common can be. In the next example, we look into a meat so appealing that apparently even imitations are consumed a lot. To be honest, we should mention that the imitation of crab meat has managed to get very close to its original shape and taste, but how it does so is why it was added to our list. The imitation of the crab meat is made using processed fish, which gets blended into a paste. After including additives such as starch and even sugar, we get a mass that is then finished off by adding the food, coloring, and creating the familiar crab meat imitation.
Then the crab meat, or surimi, is ground in a meat grinder to the state of meat mass.
As one could expect from a copy, even though it may smell, taste, and even seem like crab meat, it lacks all the nutritional benefits that the original has. Number 19. Skittles. We may know that having too many sweets isn't good for one's health, and one of the first consequences may be bad oral health. The next example is a very popular candy called Skittles. Taste the rainbow, or should we really, considering that the ingredients used to make the amazing color of Skittles come from insects? As if that wasn't bad enough, this candy also contains titanium dioxide, a substance on which some of the biggest authorities on food safety can't seem to agree.
Thousands of other sweet treats marketed to children contain titanium dioxide, which is an additive that the European food safety regulators say is no longer good or safe for human consumption.
They aren't on the same page regarding its safety and whether it should be allowed for wide consumption. Then again, we should be fair and mention that the FDA doesn't prohibit it. Number 20. Bubblegum. By now, we have seen many types of foods that don't seem healthy enough for us to eat. Some of them even turned out to be quite worrisome, but apparently we don't even have to swallow a substance for it to be bad for us. Let's look into bubblegums and why this is the case. Since it's right there in the name, whether we call it bubblegum or chewing gum, what's the essence of this treat is the gum that provides us with the fun activity of chewing. There are many different bases that could be used for the production of bubblegums, and most of these include various chemical solutions, among which there is one we would like to point out. It's called lanolin. Lanolin is a substance, or better said, a secretion, produced within the sheep's body. It's the element that makes the sheep's body essentially waterproof. While we definitely don't expect people to swallow bubble gums, it still leaves us with the question of whether we want sheep's oily secretions in our mouths. There appear to be numerous examples of foods whose safety we would have never considered inspecting. Now that we've gone through this list, which demonstrates various types of food that we may want to consume less of after seeing all the examples, we hope you haven't entirely lost your appetite. Thank you for watching.